All right, hi everybody. It is Mr. Stewart here with a video, assignment video for Toon Boom Harmony Essentials, and I'm going to try to keep this as completely simple as possible. We're not going to go into everything today, and we'll let there be things that we get into now. But there's going to be probably a fair amount of exploration that you're going to want to do on your own. There's so many different tools, there's so many different options, there's a lot to discover and explore with Toon Boom Harmony. And this is the Essentials version. This isn't the more advanced versions. And so this will give you a good taste, though, of if you can get the essentials down in this program, then moving on and upgrading would be a good opportunity for you later. And today we're going to do the bouncing ball assignment, and we're going to do the part one of the bouncing ball assignment. So in this assignment video, it's going to be a lot more about just the general animation. We're not going to get into the cleanup or color or pegs or rigging or those. We'll do that in the part two of the assignment. So if you're interested in that, we're going to get to that later, but we're not going to do that in this video. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just kind of a basic tour of a couple of different things. The first thing that I'm going to go to here is going to be the preferences. If you go to Edit and then Preferences, you're going to see there's tons and tons and tons of different things that you can change. Now, I have restored the defaults and I've restored the default window settings, so this should be pretty similar to how yours looks on your machine. If it doesn't, that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong or there's anything wrong. It usually they make changes here or there, but most of the things probably will be similar or in a similar location. Now, the one thing I'm going to say right off the bat that I recommend changing in your preference is this focus on mouse enter. So right now, in order to interact with a window, you have to click on that window. It is a little bit more intuitive, I think, if you go to Preferences and you click on Focus on Mouse Enter and you hit OK. Now, I don't have to click. I just have to move. Wherever my mouse is, wherever my stylus is, then I'm activated. So in the other way, if I was drawing and then I moved my mouse down to the timeline, I couldn't do anything on the timeline until I actually click on the timeline. Then I'd have to click again to enter in a key. So this feels to me a little bit nicer to work with. So that'd be the first thing I would say you might want to change. You can also look in right underneath Preferences at keyboard shortcuts. Now, these are all of the different commands that can be done in Toon Boom, at least maybe not all, but a lot of them. And you can add different shortcut keys, hot keys to them. I'm not going to get into changing anything just yet. We'll probably do that in another video. But if you do want to at least look at this and read through these different shortcut keys, then at least you will know what many of these, especially in the drawing mode, going from the brush to the cutter tool, different things like that, frame drawing selection. There's different ways, lots of different shortcuts here that you can look at. Okay, let's go to the drawing tools and talk a little bit about those. They're going to be over here in the left side. These are going to be the simple drawing tools. There's other things that you can do, and we'll eventually again get to those. Lots of different options, but the basic ones are going to be right here. And the two that I'm going to introduce first that you're going to need to know about are going to be the paintbrush tool and the pencil tool. Now they're very, very similar. You'll see over here in the color palette, I can change the different color that I'm drawing with. The main difference, and I'm going to draw a line here with the pencil tool, and now I will draw a line with the brush tool. Now, you wouldn't necessarily know that there's that much of a difference between these, but both of these are vector based drawings. That's why they're very smooth. Now, if I go up to my selection options here, I'm going to do the individual select. If I did this, it's going to select everything. But with the white button here, I can select the individual points, at which point I can now change by moving these handles around. And this gives me a lot of control. I can move the points, I can move the handles. And if we zoom in really, really close here, then you will be able to see that the pencil tool is the vector, the line that creates your graphic, this sort of pinkish line here, is on the inside of the graphic. And then if I were to do the same thing over here, you would notice that the line is on the outside. So that's the main difference between the paintbrush tool and the pencil tool. The paint creates the vector line on the outside, and I can reshape that in many different ways. And the pencil creates the line on the inside. All right, so now you can see I have reset the window. I can scroll in and scroll out using my mouse scroll wheel. I can also go over here to the hand and I can move the entire display around. Now this is not really moving any artwork. I'm just sort of moving how I am looking at the overall frame of the camera. And this should bring us here to these two windows. This is the camera window and this is the drawing window. Now they're similar, but there is a difference here between the two. The camera is going to have this frame here, and there's different camera moves, there's different animation I can do on the camera. I'm not going to do that right now, but this rectangle is what I'm going to see, and as long as I'm moving this around, generally what I'm going to see in the camera is not going to change. This is just for me to be able to scroll in and maybe look at something here with a little bit more clarity because I'm zooming in. Then I can always zoom out, and if I want to reset, I can grab this and sort of bring this over here like this to reset. Now the drawing window is only looking at this drawing layer. That gray that you see here behind this is sort of empty space. And that white that you see here is empty space. The drawing, I can keep drawing and draw something. If I grab the paintbrush here and draw this over here, well, it's not going to show up in the camera. It's way over here outside of the camera. This just gives me two different options, and if I get a bunch of different layers, the camera and the lightbox will allow me to look through all of those layers at the same time. But the drawing window will allow me to look at a specific drawing layer. So For example, if I create, I'm going to go to this little plus here, and I'm going to create a couple more drawing layers. And close. I'm going to do 2 of these here. And say I'm going to, let's do a different color. Use the brush. And this brings us to the tool properties. I can change the size of the brush. There's different brush options. Auto taper. And let me get that a little bit bigger so you can really see that. Now, if I look at the drawing layer, you can see I'm only looking at these different pieces from this particular layer. But if I'm going to look at the camera, I'm going to be able to see the multiple layers that are happening right here. So that's kind of the main reason why we would have these differences. Now I'm going to right click and delete these here. And this is going to bring us to, we've got the eraser here. If I need to activate the drawing layer that I'm on. If I don't have anything, well, it's going to default to what I have there. But I want to make sure and I activate the layer that I'm working on. Now, what this eraser is actually doing is now changing the vector graphics. If I erase this in here, now there are a number of new vector graphic lines created. So you always want to be aware of that when you're erasing. You can still go back in and manipulate these on an individual basis, like this. Okay, so let's move forward and begin the process of creating our animation. So I'm going to do that by creating a new layer, not a new camera. You got to hold this down, and I'm going to go to a new drawing layer. Now you'll see there's a lot of different layers here. There's new cameras, things called bones, a color card, a peg, which we'll get into next week with rigging, sound layers, and effects layers. But right now I'm just going to stick with a pretty basic drawing layer. And I can name this and create as many as I want. So I'm going to put ball animation for one layer. And then I'm going to close this, and I'm going to delete by just right-clicking on this and then going up to delete like this. So now I've got a very clean option. Now I could create another layer that I want to use to create my background. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to move my background underneath here, and I'm going to go over and I could simply just draw a simple background, but I'm going to draw kind of a barn here, some clouds, and again, all of this is graphic. So I can move these around if I want by selecting them, holding the control. I think for a Mac it's probably the command key, and I can move different pieces of my background around. Just selecting those, holding that control, and moving them like this. So I can go in, I can use color, I can create multiple layers if I wanted to. If I wanted to color it on a different layer, pull that underneath, and I could, create with the paint brush. Now, if I have a completely circular image, I can use the paint option and color it in that way. So I'm going to in this case just very quickly put in some red color, use my eraser, and if I wanted to add in some transparency and kind of bring that down, I could go to effects, transparency, and you'll see it sort of connects this. I can change the transparency. It's a little bit counterintuitive because the higher the number is, the more transparent it is. So if I want to make it 90% transparent, I can do things like that. I can turn this off and on using these eyeballs, different things like that. But all that to be said, sometimes it's just as easy or easier to create a background using a different program, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to delete these now, and now I'm going to import in an image and a drawing that I've done from a different, that I did in Photoshop. So it's a similar barn picture, but it's a little bit nicer. I can create a layer, create a single layer, give it a name. I could vectorize the image. I'm not going to do that. It usually doesn't work terribly well. I could add it, well, it's not even giving me the option to add to an existing layer. And so I'm going to hit OK, and it brings in my JPEG image. Now it's a little bit small, even though it feels like it should be the same resolution, but I can use this little transform button, click on that, and now I can manipulate that and scale it up. Just click off there, and now I have a background. Now if I want to just lock that background down, I can hit this little lock key, and then I'm not going to draw on it. Because I could, if I was selected on this, if I was selected here, I believe I would be, okay, it's not going to let me draw on that anyway, so that's good. Okay, but I'm going to lock it anyway and go to my ball animation layer. All right, now before we get started animating, I'm going to go through one more window to show you, because it's going to be helpful to see a key way that Toon Boom Harmony works. So I'm going to go up here to this menu, Windows, and if I click on this, you'll see I have a lot of different windows that I can open up. This one, Drawing Substitutions, it doesn't seem to be all that exciting, but it's gonna be helpful in just a moment. Now, if I grab this tab, I can draw, put it up here. I can, if you put it on this tab, I can put it here. This allows me to do this. I can still sort of push and pull things around. I'm going to put it down. Actually, I'm not going to put it anywhere. I'm going to pull it out and close it and show you a different way, which is these little plus signs you can see here. So if I know where I want it, I can go to this plus sign and I can grab it right there. And I'm going to pull it just to the side here like this and kind of pull this over so that we can still see it, but I can mainly have the timeline as my preferred window down here. And I'm going to just sort of reshape all of this so I have plenty of room. And I'm going to start off by clicking on this frame. And if I begin drawing, and I'll just draw a ball sort of right here hold on, before I do that, I want to change back to black. I want to use the pencil, and I'm going to draw in just a simple ball. Now, you'll notice that this is only showing up on this particular frame. But you also notice that over here in my drawing substitutions, I now have that ball right there. Now, if I want to begin seeing through the onion skins, I can click on this onion skin option here, and you can see that I can see a red is going to give me, if I want to spread that out, the red is going to give me what is before my drawing, and the green, anything that is green, is going to be whatever is after my drawing. Now you'll also see that I created a second key, and then this was automatically filled in. So let me take off onion skinnings here. You can see that my first drawing is held for 3 drawings until my next one. And if I was going to do another one down here, now let's just put this over here, you'll see that I create another drawing substitutions. These are named in order. So you can see 1, you can see 2, and this you can see 3. Now, but they are on different frames because this is on frame 8, and this is on frame 5, and this is on frame 1. And if I wanted to do this, you could see that I should be able to see. There we go. I can see the green. Sometimes is depending on how far away in time it is. But everything that's green is going to be in front of my animation, and everything that's red is going to be behind my animation. And I can change how many frames by clicking and dragging on the timeline here. Now, I bring this up because one of the things that sometimes students will do is they will begin to use the copy and paste. And they'll say, oh, well, why don't I just grab all of this and I'm going to go to a different frame and I'm going to move that around. Hold on. Let's grab it with the whole thing there. Hit C, and I'm going to go to a different frame. I'm going to hit paste, and now I'm going to move that around. Now, if I have done this, you can see that drawing substitution 3 and drawing substitution 4 are exactly the same, but they are now 2 different images. Sometimes, if I just go to the next frame and I decide that I'm going to just keep drawing on a new frame, sometimes it will be that I'm just drawing, and now I have these 2 are not, they are the same, and they are on that same frame, and they are now as if they are the same drawing. So if you're going to use copy and paste, or if you're going to draw, you just need to be really aware of looking over here and making sure that all of your images are exactly the same as you want them to be. Because the way we're going to do this today is just to draw a new image for each frame. And then next week, when we get into the cleanup, we're going to get into creating a nice, maybe sort of cleaned up version of the ball and animating that ball along our rough animation. So let me start again with a clean, actually let me clean this up and just erase everything here. I'm just going to grab all of that and hit X, grab all of this, Control X, and I'll keep that first drawing, and I'm just going to get rid of the, I want to just delete this and that's what's going to get rid of it. Delete keyframe is going to be something different, and we'll get into that next week. And this delete will only delete the frame that I'm on. So if I shift select everything there, I can delete that, and now I'm ready to go. So that it's one of those things that it takes a little getting used to. You can see that these drawing substitutions are still here, and so I just want to be aware of what I have created, what I've drawn, and how it works. Because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, a little bit frustrating. Now, one of the nice things about being able to do this on Toon Boom Harmony is I can have as many layers as I want. So I am going to create a new drawing layer, and I'm going to call this my planning layer. Now, in my planning layer, I will be able to draw multiple drawings. Here, I'm going to start right there, and I'm going to figure out the main path of the bouncing ball by drawing the up and down positions of those. And I can keep everything really, really rough. Like this. Now I can also go in and kind of figure out all of the drawings kind of basically all at the same time. I'm going to do maybe just working out about this many. Now you'll notice I'm using squash and stretch, which we've talked about in class, but I'm not going to use a ton of squash and stretch as we get closer to the end because the ball is not going to have as much force, as much energy as it does when it's dropping from a higher height. Just going to stretch a little bit more here in the beginning. And I just keep going over these to really get a sense of where I want everything to kind of be as we get planned out. Now this does not have to be perfect, but this gives me a pretty good idea of kind of what I'm going to draw. Now I want to make sure that now I'm going to put that planning, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go over here and add in a transparency effect. I'm going to click on that, open that up, and make this at, let's see, 80. That way I can see in the background what I've been working on. And then I'm going to go to my ball animation, and I am going to shift select, delete that. I'm going to delete actually everything except for that first frame. Okay, so I want to extend the planning page all the way to the end, so I can see it. So I'm going to shift select from the very last frame to the very first frame. Hold down the shift key and select, and you see it highlights all of this on the planning. And I'm going to right click and go to extend exposure, and you'll see now that it is exposed on every single frame. Now, I haven't really talked about if you want more frames, you can just click and drag to extend or not. And I'm just going to keep it at 60 for the time being. But you can add and reduce the amount of frames you have. So now it seems a little bit dark still. One of the reasons is I'm looking at everything through the light box. If I click this and it allows me to see everything except for if I click on the layer that's unlocked here, now I'm on the background layer. If I click on the ball layer, I can see that. It displays all the other layers as semi-transparent. But sometimes it can get in the way. If I unclick this, you can see that I can change the transparency a little bit more or have it kind of hone in, and I can see the background layer a little bit clearer as well. So now I am just going to go and do my animation. Now I could do every single frame. I'm going to play around a little bit with my timing by in some of these. Let me turn on the light box so I can see. In some of these, working on what we call twos. Twos means that I'm holding a drawing for 2 frames. Ones means I am holding a drawing for simply 1 frame. And I can mix and match that depending on how I want this to work. And I'm going to have it sort of pop off the ground pretty quickly. And draw all of these in. And make it pop off the ground very quickly as well. And I'm just doing a little mark there, so it'll show up as a keyframe and nothing will show up. Now I can press play right over here, and it just played to the end. I'm going to turn off the onion skin, and I'm going to press play like this, and this works pretty well. Now I don't really want to see the planning now, and now I can also use this little render button, and this is going to give me the closest to what it's going to look like in the video when I make a video. So some frames have already been rendered. Do you want to render these frames again? I'm going to hit yes. It's going to render this and give me a new window that now is going to load up every frame. And now I can see this a little bit more clearly. Now, I can also scroll through this backwards and forwards, but it just takes a little bit more computer memory to do that. Now, for this is a perfectly fine place for me to leave my animation. All right, so now I've got my animation, and I can still edit it a bit. One of the things that can be a bit confusing is that you're going to see a lot of language like things like this: insert keyframe and duplicate drawing. delete keyframes, animation, animate. There's going to be, sometimes it's going to feel like it's talking about animating, and yet it's not going to work the way you want it. Because if I go in here and I want to insert a keyframe, well, all it's going to do is put a little keyframe dot on the frame, and that's not going to do me any good. And that's because sometimes it's going to be talking about animating using a rig, and we're going to talk about that next week in the next video. But for this, we can still move our animation around, but we need to use the exposure option. So we right click, you can see the plus or minus key will increase or decrease the exposure. So if I hit the plus key down here, it will continue to hold that drawing. And if I hit the minus key, it will decrease that, and it'll push everything around. Now I can also, if I want to say put in an in-between in here, I can go in and do a couple of different things. I can clear the exposure, or I can insert a blank cell. And now it has pushed everything down and given me a blank spot, so that now I can then just go in and draw in another keyframe, draw another drawing right in here. And if I want to then even add more, I can extend that exposure and increase that way. So now I can give myself a little bit more. If I really want to have it sort of hold at the top a little bit longer, I could do that. I could go in and add some more in-betweens, and I can always look at the planning page and sort of say, okay, well, this is where, I tell you what, I'm going to put in another insert blank cell right there, and I'm going to put in a blank cell right there as well. And now I'm going to turn back on the onion skin, turn off my planning, just see those two drawings, and now I can add in a drawing on either side. Going to add a little bit more time to that, and so now you can see I've got just a little bit of I can always loop this too, and get a little bit more of a hold on the top there. So there's a lot of still different things I can do until I feel if I feel really good about this. Now I am going to show you how to do one different thing, and that is add a peg to this layer, and that is if I go over here and I add a peg. Actually, I need to have this selected, and then I'm going to add a peg. Now you can see that this peg is over the top of this animation. And if I grab the peg where it says P there, and I take this, I can take now and move this entire if I can get that, there we go. I can move the entire animation in to a different location. So I can take all of my animation and move it, and I can actually set keyframes on that peg as I do that. Now, that doesn't, if I want to delete that keyframe, this is where I'm going to delete the keyframe, and it's going to allow me to manipulate my animation and move it around by just sort of holding and moving that. And I'm going to move this off just a bit here over in this direction. Okay, so now you are ready to turn in your animation. You've done everything you'd like. If you want, you can go and put in a quick pass of color on each frame. And that will it will be rough, but it'll give you a sense of what the animation is going to look like. We'll get into doing nicer things, a nicer version of this next week, and getting into a lot of the animation tools for a peg animation or a rigged animation. But I'm going to quickly just throw some color inside of this using that paint bucket. And now you are ready to turn in your animation. So how do you do that? The first thing you do is, if you hopefully have done this a few times already, is you go to File and then Save. And you want to save this file onto your computer. You're not going to upload this Toon Boom file to your Google Drive. That's not going to work. So save it. You can save in version up. You can save as and save it as, Bouncing Ball Part 2 or something like that. But in this case, I'm just going to save it. Once that file is saved, then I want to go and export a movie. Now you can see there's a lot of different options. I can export a bunch of still images. I can export a movie, an animated GIF, or a shockwave flash, which doesn't work all that well anymore. So really, the one I want you to use is the movie option. GIFs don't really work well with Facebook or our editing software. The images can become cumbersome, and the movie is usually the best option. And the best option I've found is the QuickTime movie. Windows Media Video can be a little bit difficult to work with. The MPEG-4 needs a specific type of codec compressor. So a QuickTime movie, you can change the settings if you want, but this is pretty good. The quality is high, and keep the current frame rate. You can change the compressor to none if you'd like, but you get a pretty big file, and that's not I think worth it. So that it's usually set up pretty well. Then you're going to navigate to where you want to create that file. You put in a name here, which usually is just going to be some version of this, but you can put in a separate name, figure out how many frames, the scene resolution, etc. And then when you hit OK, I've already done this once, so I'm going to overwrite it. And it's going to create my video. And now I can go and find that video here. There we go. And now I have my animation, and this is my part 1 rough bouncing ball animation that I can turn in to my Google Drive folder. So all you do is go to Canvas. So let's open up a new version of Canvas here. Open up a browser and open up Canvas. go to your class that you're working with. In this case, I'll just use this one right here, and then I would scroll down to where it says Week 2 Bouncing Ball Part 1. Click on this, and it is going to take me to my drive. You will see your folder here with your name. Click on that. Double click on the animation course level 1. You can always change this so you can read it a little bit cleaner. And then I'm going to go to Week 2 Bouncing Ball Part 1. You can see I've turned in one already. But I'm going to turn in this one over again. There's a couple of different ways I can do it. I can go to New File Upload and go find that. Or if I want, I can just pull this folder over here and click and drag, and it will start to upload. And now my upload is complete. Now, it takes about 20 minutes to half an hour for it to process it so you can play it online. Well, it actually didn't take that long at all. So there we go. And now I can play that animation. And make sure that you turn this in next to the review folder, not inside the review folder, because that is where you're going to get your video review once your grader takes a look at this. So good work this week. Good luck, and have a great week.